Hello, beautiful souls. Today's episode is so good. And before we jump in, I have some exciting news to share. If you've ever wondered where you're blocking money, this is for you. I've created a free quiz to diagnose your money wounds so you can heal them and unblock yourself to receive more money. Just go to moneywoundsquiz.com and answer 6 quick questions to get your insanely accurate and potent results. And if you're loving my vibe and want to work one-on-one to call in more feminine energy wealth, I would love to hear from you. You can shoot me a DM on social media or go to emilywilcox.com to learn more. Hello and welcome back to the M Makes Money Show. I am so happy to have my friend Sara Gilbert here joining me today. She's an award-winning business strategist and mindset coach. Sara has dedicated the last 10 years to working with mission-driven entrepreneurs who want a clear, concise business strategy so they can serve their clients in a high-end capacity, have a streamlined business that runs efficiently, build an engaged team, and make more money along the way and enjoy life even more. Sara, thank you so much for being here and welcome on the show.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation.
Yeah. So I had the pleasure of being on your show and we dove into all things money wounds and healing them to call in wealth. And I'm so happy that we get to continue our conversation here. And I guess I would love to start by just inviting you to share how you got into entrepreneurship.
It wasn't the plan. It was the plan to become entrepreneur at 40, but the universe, life made it 5 years earlier.
Oh.
So I was in a job where people would say it was the perfect job. I was free to come in and out whenever I wanted, to build the position that I wanted, but I was really dying inside.
Yeah.
I was really, really I did not feel accomplished whatsoever. Even if the people there were absolutely amazing, I was slowly dying inside. Also, there's a day that my boss was like the senior vice president starts talking to me and I'm at my desk and I just take a piece of paper and I just write a date on it. And I'm like, that is the date that I'm resigning. So that date came. And I handed over my resignation. And by then my boss, who knew that I was going through a horrible divorce, looked at the piece of paper, looked at me, looked at the piece of paper, looked at me, says, I'm leaving on a business trip for 2 weeks, for 1 week. We'll talk about it when I come back. And he put it on a shelf in my office. And he came back a week later and goes, so I took it the exact same place where he put it. And I'm like, it's time. And just like that, I had nothing. I had zero in my bank account. I had 2 very small children that I had taken care of full time. I was going through like a crazy personal time, but that was it. I just knew it when I jumped. So
did you at that time have a pretty strong relationship to source, universe, God, your intuition?
No. None whatsoever. So I can't even explain what made me decide to do it. Wow. I can't even explain. I didn't have anything. I didn't have like potential clients or I knew I wanted to be a business consultant, business coach. I knew I wanted to help entrepreneur, but I didn't know how, where, what, nothing.
Wow.
But
so that was like the leap of all leaps.
Yes. And even to this day, I wouldn't even be able to say what made me decide that. I just knew I couldn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so curious to hear what's next because I know for myself that those first months and even years, frankly, as an entrepreneur, oh my gosh, it brings up all kinds of stuff. Like you're hustling to get clients, you don't have good boundaries. Typically, you're saying yes to everything. You're attaching your worth to whether or not clients want to work with you. Like it's a ride in and of itself. And then in your case, adding the pressure of you are now a single mother, you're financially responsible for your children. Like you're just going through this identity upheaval. So what was that like for you starting your business under those circumstances?
I would say interesting. And you're right, like everything was tied in there. But what also was tied into my belief and who I was is you got to work hard in life.
Yeah.
So work hard, I did. And sometimes when I would lose my, why am I doing this? I would just go see my kids sleep and I would just watch them sleep. And I'm like, that's why. Get back to work.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I knew that in that life, in that previous life, I was not the best version of myself. And I was not the mom that I wanted to be. So I didn't even give myself another option. I remember when I resigned, one of the coworkers that I had there who was on an entrepreneur, and she's like, well, Sarah, you're super smart. I know you're going to do amazing because you do amazing work here. So you're just going to do amazing work somewhere else. He goes, and if anything, Sarah, you've got a plan B. In my head, I'm like, I don't have a plan B. Right. There was no plan B. There was a plan A, and that was it. Actually, there wasn't even no plan A. So it was just, we
plan A was figure it out.
Exactly. Plan A was figure it out as you go. And that's it. But I knew I wanted freedom. I knew I wanted to make an impact. I knew I wanted to make a difference. And I knew I wasn't making any of those. So I didn't know how, but I knew it was not that.
How long did it take you to get your first client, and what did you charge them?
I was really lucky because since I was in the same industry for about a decade before, I had people who introduced me and give me little mandates here and there. So I think I started at $80 an hour.
Okay.
And I basically, whatever you needed, I would do it. I wrote web copy websites. I did graphics. I helped with your business structure. I helped with the team and the task and the delegation of the team. Basically, in a small business, whatever you needed, I could do it.
Yeah.
So, and definitely took clients that I did not want, but needed the money. Took mandates that I did not know how to do, but I knew I would just figure it out. So, charging $80 an hour, but sometimes when you actually calculate it, I probably ended up earning like $5 an hour.
Right. Because you were researching and figuring out.
And I was figuring it out as I go and everything. And I remember even I had a client out of town and he's like, I think by then I was charging $150 an hour. He goes, so if you come and meet me, do I need to pay for your travel and everything? I'm like, no, don't worry about it. You just pay me for the time that I'm there. But it's a 3-hour drive for a 2-hour meeting. Yeah. And I'm like, something's not right here, I think, but I didn't know how. I didn't know better. Yeah. So, and I just needed that $150 an hour by then. And so I did it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I actually think this is really common. Like the more stories I hear, it's like, there's a season for everything. And often there is a season when you will accept all different kinds of work. There is a season when you're willing to say, oh no, I'll travel to you for free. And that gets to change over time. There's things I do in my business right now where I'm like, oh, I know I won't be doing this in 6 months. But right now, it feels fun. It feels like I have space in my schedule. So sure, why not? And
I found that at one point also, you have to do different things to see what you like and what you don't like.
Yes. Yeah. Especially if you're a generator or a manifesting generator in human design, because then we respond. So the more things we give ourselves to respond to, it's like, and you start to refine what you like and don't like.
So here's the interesting thing. I'm a projector.
Oh.
And I'm like, and I'm a recovering hustler.
Oh, okay. Are you a splenic projector or emotional?
Yes. Splenic.
I know. Did you manifest health issues?
No.
Working at that pace?
No. But I was so disconnected from me.
Yeah.
That it didn't matter. It didn't matter if it was in the line. It didn't matter if I didn't have the energy for it. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered.
Wow.
So like,
I'm shocked because I feel like the splenics, normally it's like, oh yeah, I was fine until I ended up in the hospital for a week with a case of vertigo. And it's like, right, because your body finally got to have it say, and you had to slow down.
Well, no. And that's really like, so the more that I read on human design, the more I'm like, wow, like there was a total disassociation of who I was versus what I need to do.
Yeah.
Which comes with a lot of the stories as well, because I was born in a family where, like many people, where you have to work hard.
Yeah.
If you're not working hard, well, then you're lazy. So there was no thinking of, manifestation and taking, handing it out to the universe. And it was like, no, you just work.
Yeah.
So work I did.
I totally relate to that. Like both of my parents had their own businesses, but they were like small businesses. My dad was a psychologist. My mom was running like a little computer shop in town, and they both worked, until at least 7 p.m. every night. Like I would eat dinner at the babysitter's house and then get picked up and have like an hour with my parents, before bed. And we were on 20 acres of land, and we had horses and turkeys and sheep. And so like on the weekends, we would be mowing the grass or putting new shingles on the roof. Like I remember doing that stuff with my parents. That's what we did. And it was like, we were proud of that work ethic.
And it is a badge of honor. Like now you ask anybody, how are you doing? Everyone's response is good, but I'm busy.
Yeah.
Or busy and I'm good, but busy is always there.
Yeah.
Or we're busy being busy.
Yes.
So now you can find me at the spa 1, 2, sometimes 3 times a week. There's still challenges, and there's still definitely, like some stories in there too, but there's more of an alignment. But the journey for entrepreneur was just like catapult in there.
Yeah.
Said 5 years earlier than I had planned. It was not the plan.
Do you remember how much you made in your first year?
I made $39,000.
Okay.
Which was not enough to pay for daycare and the rent.
Yeah. So how did that work?
Well, I had rent. I had savings that I put in there. But it was definitely not enough, but I was able to, between that and there's help from the government for single parents. And if you're a single mom with a business, the government helps you even more. And I had some savings, a little bit that I was able to tap into when I went like a little bit. And that's really how I made it happen.
Yeah.
Well, the first year I survived.
Yeah. Well, and like 39,000 is enough to give you evidence that it's going to work. If you keep at it, right? It's not like you made $5,000 in your first year and you're like, okay, how on earth am I ever going to take care of things? 39,000 is like, okay, yeah, it's not enough, but it's like, it's maybe halfway to enough or 3/4 of the way. So we'll get there.
There was no plan B. This was it.
Yeah.
So I didn't even realize or judge it or anything. And, the average salary, I think in Canada, it was around 50,000 anyways.
Yeah.
So
you weren't too far off in your first year of business.
It wasn't too far off. You really don't unless you live, in the country, but in the city, you can't do much with that. But I was free.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was free and I was able to, be there with my kids. And I was the mom who was like apple picking with them and on the school bus with them and doing every museum with the daycare with them. Like I was always there. Because for me, that was important. And I figured, I always told myself the money thing, I'll figure it out later.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you were like working hard and kind of hustling for this business, was it happening like during the hours that your kids were in school or after they were in bed or both?
Well, it was definitely both. So they were at daycare because when I started my business, my daughter was 2.5.
Okay.
And my son was 4.5.
Got it.
So they were in kindergarten. So they were in daycare. So I would work all day, put them to bed, 8:00. And then I would be back in front of my computer.
Yeah.
And all of this, was to $80 that I would charge for 1 hour, but I would probably work like 2, 3, sometimes 4, sometimes,
Yeah.
to make things happen. So, down the line, it's going to be the opposite. But in the beginning, you knew what you need to do in the beginning.
Totally. Absolutely. So obviously there's been an evolution to your business. You started out at 80 an hour, then you went up to like 150. Do you still charge hourly or
No.
What does your pricing look like now?
So there's 2 ways. I have different programs that I offer. I take a handful of clients on a one-on-one basis, which what we do is a 6 months. We have a Zoom call for an hour every other week for 6 months. So it's pretty intense.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that package is at $11,500.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So
I think it's so fun to watch the evolution of pricing.
It's very interesting. I remember the first time when I first started working like more on a package instead of just on a one-on-one. It's like, can you do this? Will people pay for this? And then you see people paying for it. You're like, that's interesting. And then because I remember the first time in the beginning when I moved away from the hourly basis, it was a 1-year engagement where we'd have a meeting a month, 2 hours in person. And it was $7,500.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my packages started, so I was on the road all the time. I was on the road and then I was like, all right, how about $8,500? And then at one point I was talking with a girlfriend of mine. I'm like, do you think I could put 95?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, and you have all this like anxiety around it. And she's like, go for it. She goes, why don't you go for 10,000, Sarah? I'm like, oh my gosh, that's just crazy. And I just couldn't feel it in my body. I was like, I want to vomit to say 10,000 for 1 year,
Yeah.
But at one point you kind of get the rhythm of it and there's one realization that I did is that when people pay, they pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still working on that because I still do like a lot of free stuff and things like that for too much. But I've noticed that when people pay, they actually pay attention and they actually do. It's not just, oh, this is a great idea, but we'll never do it. They actually do it.
Totally. It's part of the transformation too.
Yes.
Like, when I signed up for a $10,000 a month mastermind, it was like, okay, well, I need to show up and become a match for being the woman who pays $10,000 a month to be in a mastermind.
Yes. And it's true. And it does. And like, I see it from the clients who are like, so I have a lot of clients in the wealth management industry. So for them, like many of them, it's like, okay, pocket change. That's why I get 8,500 was like, I was like, okay, no, there's something wrong. There's something wrong here. So you evolve it. And I love the evolution. So at first, when you increase your price, for me anyways, when I increased my price, I just wanted to vomit every time.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can do this. And then it just kind of slips out. And then you're like, oh, I didn't die.
Yeah.
So now it gets easier and easier as we go,
Totally. So I want to circle back to the hustling and, the work ethic and culture in your family of hard work, because you and I have talked separately about how that's showing up in your money story.
Yes.
So can you share a little bit about that?
So when I did when I did your test on the money wounds, the hard money came in top, like way above the other ones. And And to full honestly, when I got the interview requests of the questions for our call today, it probably took me a good week to be able to fill it out, just because I didn't think I could go there. They say, we're going to talk about money and how much you make and everything. And I'm like, and I'm not an anxious person, but I think I had an anxiety attack. If I think that's what an anxiety attack looks like, So so the hard money wound is, you have to work hard for money. So raised in, like many people, in an environment where you have to work hard for money, and money doesn't grow on trees. People who have money, it's because, they're crook, they took it from somebody, and people who are rich have no values. And so I can't have money. I can't be wealthy. I can't, and there's so many I can'ts. And I still have them.
Yeah.
So, working many hours and just charging for one is still part of my pattern. Doing things for free is still part of my pattern that I challenge today. So I noticed that, and this is really interesting, as I did the first module. I just did the one on the hard money, because I had to stop there, because I'm like, I need to process that first.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not just about money, the hard money one. My belief that life has to be hard. So those wounds are way above just the money.
Yeah.
And I've been working on processing that, on what if it was easy?
Yeah.
What if money flowed? But also in general, what if life was easy? Yeah. So when we open just the money wound, we see that it's not just for money, it's from everywhere.
Yeah.
So I get triggered from some people that, in the mastermind, and they're like, oh, I've been in business for 3 years and I've been $7.2 million last month, but but some of them have manifested $1 million business in 2 years in business. I'm like, how?
Right.
As long as I have the wound of hard money wound, and just life has to be hard, you get stuck in that pattern.
Yeah. Well, I think you bring up some really interesting and insightful points. And so I first just want to honor you, because I can tell that you're really reflecting and contemplating and working on the embodiment and the shifting of what's there, which is so huge. Often, I think there's a tendency to stay more surface level. And it's when we really allow ourselves to go to the depths that we get this incredible transformation. And one of the things that you said is something that I see in this money wound work, which is there's the hard money wound and then there's the evil money wound, and they kind of tango together. So it's like rich people are bad, and also people who just get money for nothing are bad.
They're lazy.
They're lazy.
Oh, yes.
And so the hard money wound is actually one of the only socially acceptable ways to get rich.
Yeah.
So it's like we start doing the math on this, and our brain figures it out even as kids, where it's like, oh, the only chance I have at making money or making a lot of money and still belonging in my family or in my community is if I work really hard for it.
Yes.
Because then if I work super hard for it and everyone knows I worked really hard for it, then I won't be like those other people who are the bad rich people.
Yeah. And I'll be worth it.
Yeah.
And I'll be worthy of the money.
Yeah.
I'll be worthy of it. So definitely. And it's very, very present in the society.
Yes.
Because also, it's all about the hustle.
Right.
Gotta hustle more. You gotta work hard.
Right. And it's like, that's one way, like I am grateful to have a work ethic. I'm sure you are too. And it's served to a degree, but now there's like this new season where the growth edge is actually, can I let it be easy? Can I do less?
Yes. And I think that I can work a lot, but it doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah.
I think that's the spin.
Particularly as a projector. So if anyone listening is not understanding this vernacular, this is human design. And you can literally just go to Google and say free human design chart. And there are a bunch of websites that pop up, and you put in your date of birth and your exact time of birth, and you'll get your human design type. There's 5 types. And then there are emotional authorities and all kinds of intricacies, which you can go down a whole rabbit hole of learning about if you desire. But Sara's a projector, which is not one of the most common types. If I remember correctly, I think it's around 15% of humans are projectors. And projectors are meant to be guides. They're meant to be coaches. So like if the game of life were a baseball game, the projectors are the coaches. Yes. They're not batting. They're not catching. They're not pitching. They're the ones who see the whole thing and know what needs to happen. And because of that, they're not meant to be hustling or grinding or working even an 8-hour day, because they simply don't have the energy for it. But it's also not required, because like what Sara can do in 4 hours is like, it's her superpower, because she can see everything. She's like 10 steps ahead of the rest of us. And so her 4-hour workday gets the same amount done as what it might take some of us, 8+ hours to do. But you've got to go through so much deconditioning, because, projectors are meant to feel lazy. Like, why can't I keep up? I want to keep doing this. Why do I feel so tired? I don't understand. Why do other people have more energy than me? And it's like, when we can turn that around and realize, oh, that's actually my superpower, that can really change. So I just wanted to give that caveat so that everyone can be in this conversation with us. But I'd love to hear from your perspective, like how that's gone to be doing that deconditioning and really live more as an aligned projector.
Well, it's very interesting, because I entered the human design universe maybe 6 months ago.
Oh, okay.
I know I had heard about it and everything, but really dove into it was about 6 months ago. And at first I didn't get it, but one thing that I did understand is the wait for invitation, because projectors, we want to help everyone. Yeah. But we help people even if they're not asking for help. Yeah. We have that tendency because we want help. So that was, for me, that was a big, big one. And it's really interesting because, so I said I have 3 different programs that I run. And this year, all the launches that I was trying to launch in French and in English at the same time and everything, nothing worked. Nothing worked, but everything has worked, So this year I haven't been able to sell anything that's like mass market. Yeah. But, I can sell $12,000 conference tour for a firm. Yeah. I can't sell something that's 2,000, but I can sell something that's 12,000. Yeah. And I've been going to the spa once, twice, 3 times a week. So now I'm in this mist of, I'm not sure how this works, because this also is not aligned with you're supposed to work hard. So my family doesn't know I'm at the spa 2-3 times a week, Yeah. I don't want to go in those conversations. And so it's very interesting to see when we started deconditioning how, when I try to do what a generator or manifesting generator does about like launching and doing lives and doing this, nothing works. Yeah. So now I'm testing out the stepping back and just wait for the invitation, being present, but waiting for the invitation. So I'm in the midst of it. Yeah. And that makes perfect sense. For me, I don't think we're ever fully done with our journey with human design. Like, okay, I figured it out. I'm in perfect alignment. But 6 months is on the early side, where it's like, okay, I'm now understanding what doesn't work, but I'm still trying to figure out like, what is that perfect recipe for me, and giving yourself some grace and some trial and error with it.
But on this topic of kind of the hard money wound,
Yes.
it can often like play out in our pricing and in the way that we show up in our offers. And one of the shifts that I give inside of money wound medicine that Sara knows because she's in the program is instead of thinking that effort equals income,
Yes,
which is kind of our old paradigm way of thinking, when we can change that equation slightly to impact equals income, that really opens up a whole new realm of possibility for us. And our brains can get behind it because we can actually come up with a lot of examples of where impact equals income. You know, it's like if I'm Taylor Swift and I want to make more money, I'm not like, oh, let me do 2 concerts every single day instead of 1 to double my income. It's like maybe I play bigger venues or I just up my pricing because my shows are so incredible and people love them. And so they're actually willing to pay more than what I've been charging. Like it's really about the impact of the work, not like, how do I release 8 albums this year instead so that I can 8x my income?
and I have to say that when I did that module and you said that, for me, that was so liberating. And my brain went, oh my gosh, that is so much more fun than hustling.
Yeah.
You know, and it even allowed me, I had a master class that was planned out and I was like doing 2 master classes a month, one in French, one in English. And I did one in French and I was like, I'm not having fun anymore. So I actually canceled the English one. And I'm like, you know what, let's take some space. And when I got to the, you know, it's impact becomes income. And I'm like, oh, that I can do.
Yes.
That I have to do.
And here's another one. Like if I gave you 2 options, one option is to go to university on the traditional schedule. So it'll take you 4 years, maybe 5 if you happen to change your major, and you'll live on campus and you'll go to classes and you'll do it all. And after 4 or 5 years, you'll have your degree. Or there's this revolutionary new method where I put this special headset on you while you sleep. And in one night's sleep, all of the information that you would get in 4 years gets downloaded into your conscious and subconscious mind so that when you wake up in the morning, you have all of the knowledge, not only from the classes, but from all of the experiences that would have happened during that time. And I've actually gotten it accredited. So you get the same degree. Which one should cost more?
Well, the one that's overnight.
Why?
It's simpler. It's easier. It's faster. It's everything.
But you don't have to work as hard for it. Yeah. And the other one, you get 4 years worth of the experience. You have to show up for it. You have to go to class. You see how we actually price our things the opposite?
Yes.
And I see this with clients all the time too. It's like, oh, well, if I want to charge 10 grand, I have to make it a year-long thing and I have to add all this stuff to it. And it's like, but wait a second. When you're on the client side of things, if you can get the result faster and easier, you actually want to pay more for the faster, easier way.
Yes. But could it be that when we have, especially when we carry the hard money wound, it can't be that easy. It's too good to be true. You know, we have this, oh, it's too good to be true.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, it's honestly what it is I can't receive that amount for so little effort.
Yes. That I still have it though.
Yeah.
Well,
so again, if we change effort for impact and it's like, okay, well, what's the impact of this thing I'm offering? Okay, can I receive this amount of money for that impact? It may still not be an easy yes, but it feels really different.
Yes, it definitely feels different. And there's an excitement.
Yeah.
Because even when you just say that, can I receive that for the impact that I've done? And I'm just thinking about like the conferences that I just finished. It's like, hell yeah, and more.
Yeah.
But I gave them a 10% discount.
Yeah.
You know?
I know. And that's okay. Like you get to be on this journey and a year from now, like you get to laugh and be like, oh, that was cute, Sara. Like Sara from a year ago with her little 10% discounts and her little 11K package. Like we're going to be on a journey. Yes. And as we continue to heal and feel more embodied and step into more income for impact, then it just gets to change. That's all.
So I think two things that for me have shifted since I've entered your universe and I've entered your, and I didn't tell you I was going to take your program. I didn't even tell you I took your program.
No, it was like such a sweet surprise to see that receipt in my inbox. I'm like, oh, Sara.
Yeah, but when I did the quiz and seriously, I went hiking with a friend and I talked about it the whole time and I'm like, it's there. So like the hard money wound. So impact for income and understanding the evil money wound, because they are, for me, they are tied in together. Is more money helps me to help more people.
Yes.
And people who actually need it.
Yeah.
Well, yes, my clients are entrepreneurs, whatever, but I can turn around and help people and charities and things that are projects that are important for me.
Yeah.
And maybe start enjoying life also a little bit more along the way too.
Yeah. You know, something that's come up for me really recently that I don't even think I've shared in my work thus far is that part of what we're here for, and we being women entrepreneurs, that we're sort of created with this dream of big wealth and big impact. Mm-hmm. Like no one told you should do that. No. In fact, that dream inside of us, like it kind of makes us weird. Like we usually go through a period of time where it's like, why can't I just be satisfied with what I have?
So much.
Ugh. So us entrepreneurs, like the reason we're on the planet in this time with this dream is because we're meant to help usher in this new paradigm of wealth. But what it means is that we have to be willing to walk through the fire of having the old paradigms of wealth projected on us. Yes. That's the only way it will change. So if the first time someone questions whether we're a good person for being wealthy or wanting wealth, or the first time someone questions us being lazy or not having a work ethic or whatever, if that stops us, well, how are we ever going to have a planet where we have so many examples of women with money, doing it with ease, doing great things with that money? It's like we can't change it unless we're also willing to potentially have the old paradigm projected on us and still keep going.
And we become, and this is what I'm starting to notice, is that we open the door to a new world.
Yeah.
Of, oh my gosh, I didn't know. Like when I quit my job and everything, my father, who I love, he's like, I was sure you were just going to go and get another job and that was going to be it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, seriously?
Yeah.
I'm like, you're my dad. Like, you're supposed to be cheering on my side. You know, and at one point I said, I would like to buy a house in the city. And he looked at me and goes, well, you better marry a rich guy.
Ooh, thanks, Dad.
I'm like, ouch. So it hurts. You got to take it in. Then the challenge is to not go back in the money wound with it, but like, I've got to take it in. But after that, I find, and where I'm starting to pivot is, what if I showed the way?
Right.
That it's possible to, be a single mom and buy a house in the city. And it's possible to have a 6-figure business and being at the spa 2 to 3 times a week. And what if? And I've started really putting that as my mission.
Yes.
And
I so feel this for you.
Because there's a tagline, and my business tagline is because so much more is possible.
Yeah.
And that's what, so yes, sometimes you have to take it in, and I'm still in the hard money wound, the evil money wound. And I'm like, all right, it's like you're in a storm and you're in it. It's like, I don't want to sit in the storm. I want to continue walking so I get out of the storm.
Yeah.
But being aware of it for me was such a, oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Now I can do something about it. So what if it was money for impact? What if it was easy and flowed easy?
Yeah.
Simple, even easy. Sometimes my body's like, how about it was simple?
Yeah. Yeah. I love the descriptor downstream also, because it's like, we don't have so many weird attachments to that word. So I agree with you, like with the word easy, it can be a loaded word. Yes. Where our body or our mind wants to fight against it because we have some idea of what easy means. But when I ask myself, like, okay, what's the downstream decision? What's the downstream way of doing this? It's like, I don't have any other energetic attachments to that word. I literally see in my mind me putting a raft into a river and just going. But if I tried to go upstream in that same river, work like crazy and maybe cover, 3 feet of ground. Like, you're just not going to get very far, very fast because
But how many of us have done that for a long time?
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be hard.
Well, and it feels good when it's hard, when that's our paradigm. It's like that feeling after a great workout where you're like, damn, do I feel accomplished? Like, I'm sweaty. I can't lift my arm higher than my shoulder, but there's something very satisfying about it.
Maybe that's why I moved from CrossFit to yoga.
Maybe it's I think there's like a real identity upgrade that's happening for you. So it's not surprising actually that there would be a shift in what feels good.
Yes. And one question also that I've started asking myself a lot, which helps me shift from that pattern, is, what do I want to tell myself?
Yeah.
What my last breath when I'm 85 in a rocking chair? What do I want to tell myself?
And what do you want to tell yourself?
That I've gave it everything I've got. I challenged the status quo, that I challenged it's hard to do this, that I thrived. The way that I see it is like, there's people who survive life, there's people who live life, and there's people who thrive.
Yeah.
And I decided I want to be part of the third category.
Yeah.
So now, being that storm, it's like, all right, well, how do I want to be remembered? And the wounds keep coming back. And it's okay, because my brain, my nervous system, my body, whatever is used to be in that pattern. But now it's like, all right, how do I? So these little sentences, money for impact. Okay. Money is just to serve, to give, to share. Okay. They're all little triggers that bring you back in alignment.
Yes.
Because money is it's not a piece of paper.
This conversation has flowed so well. I feel like we could go on. Maybe we'll have to have like a part 2 to this episode.
I'll let you know how I go on my journey.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, okay, let's get a journey update from Sara. So I'm really actually feeling that. And I also want to invite everyone listening to follow along on your journey. So where do you hang out? Where do you connect with people? Where can people follow you?
LinkedIn is my preferred social media. Okay. But I do have a YouTube channel where I'm there on a weekly basis. So it's www.saragilbert.tv. And I'm really starting to have fun with Instagram. I'm working with the duality where LinkedIn is more of a buttoned cerebral, up. Yeah. And then I'll go on and then I'll share on Instagram where it's more, it flows. It's probably my new identity coming on Instagram.
Okay. Perfect. So we'll make sure that we have all of those links and we'll drop them in the show notes. So go find Sara on LinkedIn or YouTube or Instagram or all three, wherever you like to hang out. And Sara, any final thoughts for our audience?
Money wounds have such a greater impact than just on money. And I think that was my biggest realization. My relationship with money is my relationship with life in general. Yeah.
Mic drop. Thank you so much for being on the show. Everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to today's show. Changing the way we think, feel, and talk about money will change the world. I truly believe that. It starts with you tuning in, and it spreads when you share this show on Instagram and Facebook and tag me at mmakesmoney. And you know what moves the needle the most? Taking just a minute to leave a 5-star review on iTunes. This show isn't free to produce, so let's multiply those dollars invested to help this show reach a bigger audience each week. Thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it. And lastly, if you want more connection, more M Makes Money style riffs, and a safe place on the internet to talk about money, jump into my free Facebook group, The Money Club. It's linked in the show notes. Until next time, I'm wishing you health, happiness, and boatloads of money.